Hi, welcome back to Just a Thought. If you've been here before, I'm really glad you're back, and if this is your first time listening, you're very welcome. In the last episodes, we talked about mental health as teenagers, what it feels like right now, the loneliness, the pressure, the things that we don't always say out loud. But today, I wanted to take things a little slower and look at teen mental health from a different angle. Because I started wondering something. What happens to all of us when we grow up? Do the feelings disappear, or do we learn how to carry them differently? So for this episode, I'm talking to my Aunt Adrianna about her mental health as a teenager and what support looked like back then, about the things that stayed with her into adulthood. This isn't about comparing generations. It's not about saying one had it easier or harder. It's just about listening. Before we begin, I want to gently share a context note. This episode includes conversations about teen mental health, emotional struggles, and how these experiences can carry into adulthood. Nothing graphic is discussed, but some parties may feel personal or heavy. If at any point you need to pause, step away, or take care of yourself, that's completely okay. This episode will be here when you are ready. And if you're struggling right now, reaching out to someone you trust can really help. You deserve support. If you're in the U.S., you can call or text 988, the Suicide and Crisis helpline anytime. If you're outside the U.S., you can find local support at findahelpline.com. You don't have to go through this alone. All right, Adrianna, I want to start here. When you were a teenager, how was mental health talked about, if it was ever talked about at all?
I think for me, growing up, mental health wasn't really talked about at all. I didn't know anything about it until I started developing anxiety and depression for my own, which that was around maybe like around I think 16, 17 is when I actually started that I got diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And so that's when the conversation actually started. But before then, I didn't know what I was dealing with. No one around me kind of knew what was going on. I was the only person that knew until I actually brought it up to my dad and my aunts and uncle, and that's when the conversation actually started about mental health.
Okay. Did people use words like anxiety and depression, or are those just like brushed off as like teenage moods?
I think now, yes. I feel like well, no, actually, no. I would say when I was younger, it wasn't really. I did have family members that would say, "Oh, it's just your anxiety, or it's just your depression, or you're just anxious." But I feel like since they knew that I was dealing with it, that's just what they would label it as. But also, it's not always just my anxiety, or it's not always just my depression. I feel like those words are always used just out of nowhere, or a lot of people just use it sporadically, where we shouldn't normalize using anxiety and depression in that way, as like describing someone. We should be able to use other words.
Yeah. Did you feel like adults really listened to teens back then, or do you feel like you were expected just to deal with things quietly?
I feel like for me growing up, I mean, I held in a lot of things, and as all teenagers do, a lot of teenagers, they hold in a lot of their thoughts, a lot of their emotions, and that's just kind of just how teens are every year, every generation of teens. They're always like that, and that's just how it's always going to be. But I feel like I'm a very talkative person, and I like to talk about my feelings, so I was very open about how I was feeling, and also having the comfort from my aunts or my uncle, and also from my dad and my mom, having them tell me that it's okay to tell me things, and it's okay to be more open. That's when I started to become more open as the years kind of gone by.
Oh. When you think back to yourself as a teenager, how would you describe your mental health?
Ooh, I started dealing with mental health problems or issues or anything like that when I started 16. I started, which isn't a young age, but it's around the age that a lot of teens do start to struggle with mental health. whether it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD. There's just a lot of things that they can be dealing with. But for me, I started, I guess you could say, was teenage years, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know at the time that me freaking out during soccer practice, or me throwing up, or me, really psyching myself out all the time, overthinking. I didn't know that I was dealing with anxiety, and then I didn't know that that's what anxiety was. I thought that I was just freaking out for no reason, or that I was just nervous, which I think being nervous and also having anxiety are two different things. And yeah, I just think it was different. I had a lot of different symptoms growing up.
I think a lot of teens listening might relate to that, feeling like things are deeply and not knowing how to explain them, or like the things like feeling that they shouldn't. When you were struggling as a teen, who did you feel like you could talk to? I know you did say like family members, your dad, your aunts, and everything like that, but was there any like school helplines that you could talk to or anything like that, or did you just feel like you wanted to go like straight to your parents?
I did have a counselor in high school where I did talk to her, but it never seemed like she understood, and I did hold a lot of things back. But I think the one person or the two people that I felt like that I could go to were both of my aunts on my dad's side, my tia Belinda and my tia Pita. They were the first two. Actually, my tia Pita was the one. She was the first one that actually noticed my symptoms, and she's the one that told my dad, like, hey, I think Adrianna's dealing with anxiety. I think that's what she's dealing with, and maybe you should take her to a specialist, to a therapist, to a psychiatrist, to see kind of what's going on, where is all this coming from, and all of that. So I think them seeing it too, because there were just days where I was down bad. Like, I would throw up, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and it was just a lot of patterns, the same patterns that I would have. Some days I'll be fine, some days I wasn't, and it was just a lot of mixed emotions too. But I think school-wise, no, I didn't really have anyone that I felt like I could go to, but I did have family members, like both of my aunts, that's where till this day, I still go to both of them and still talk about my mental health to them.
Yeah, I'm glad you were supported. This part feels really important to me. Are there things you struggled with as a teenager that have followed you into adulthood, like patterns of thinking, self-doubt, anxiety, or feeling like you had to stay strong all the time?
Oh, yeah. I think as you get older, things change. I think the way that, because obviously whenever you're younger, the way that I thought when I was younger is way different than the way that I think now. And a lot of that has to do with responsibilities. When you're a teen, you don't have that much responsibility. So the way that you're going to think about boys, you're going to think about, or girls, or you're going to think about your parents are bugging you too much, or you're going to think about friendships and things like that. But now that I'm a adult now, I think about my master's, me continuing my master's degree, being a student intern, how that looks for me, a student therapist, and then also bills. I have my own bills that I pay, and of course relationships with friends, and also just family members too. And so I do feel like I changed the way that I think, but I still always have doubts. Always, I feel like that's something that we all have as humans. We all doubt ourselves, whether it's to a certain level, very extreme, or it's very low. But us as humans, that's just something that we will always have. We always will doubt ourselves. Even the strongest person that you think that is like the most that you don't, if you see like a model on your phone or someone that you think is so pretty and that their life looks so great, you don't know, you don't know from, you're just looking at a picture of them on a screen on Instagram, but you don't know in real life if they're struggling, doubting themselves, or if they are crying every day, or they don't have confidence in themselves. You just never know. So that's why they always say, Instagram is always fake, because you really don't know. And so I feel like growing up, I still do have doubts about myself, but I always just try to push myself as much as I can to better myself.
Yeah. I have another question that goes into the last question. Did you notice any of those things like affecting your relationships, your confidence, or like the way you treated yourself as an adult?
Yeah, I feel like a relationship for sure. I just got out of an 8-year relationship not too long ago, and so I feel like I've realized a lot about myself within that relationship, and even just relationship with others too. I realize a lot, and once you kind of remove yourself from those types of things, then you're able to understand more of your thinking, and you're also able to understand and realize more things as well.
Yeah. I think this is something we don't talk about enough, is that teen mental health doesn't just disappear, but it does follow us. What helped you start understanding or healing those things? And did becoming, I guess that's not for you, I can edit that out, but what helped you understand or healing those things change how you see teen mental health now, and like not like you are how do I describe it, like you do talk to people, like you are a counselor too, like a student counselor. How did you take like teen emotions seriously as you deal with them back then?
Yeah, I feel like just learning about it. Since I went to school at UTSA with my bachelor's in psychology, and then my minor in wellness, but now I'm in my master's, getting my LPC to become a therapist, and so I feel like learning about it has taught me so much about myself and what helps me, but also, being able to help others too. I'm not perfect either, even though, I have so much knowledge about mental health, so much knowledge about psychiatry, and, I could sit here and tell you so much things, but also, sometimes I don't even listen to my own advice, which I should probably start listening to my own advice, but I don't, I know so much about it, but also I feel like, it's a trial and error. And that's all that it's a trial and error. You kind of have to go through something to kind of understand what that other person is going through, and then you're able to recognize, okay, this is this is how that person feels, and I wanna try to help them in any way that I can, and like I always tell my patients that I have, like, I know what you're going through, especially if they're dealing with anxiety or depression, because I've dealt with it for over more than a decade. So I'm one of the few therapists that a student therapist that knows kind of how a patient is feeling like.
Yeah. My last question for you is, if you could go back and talk to your teenage self, what would you want her to hear? What would you want to say to teens listening right now who feel overwhelmed, misunderstood, or alone?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, well, first I would want to tell myself is to take it slow. You may think that this friendship or this relationship ending or this one person leaving or anything feels like you're gonna die, like it feels like that's the end of the world, but it's not. And that also that you will get through it. Even though it might feel like you're not going to get through it, and there's going to be multiple days where you're going to be in your bed crying and dealing with your anxiety and dealing with it to the point where you feel very depressed and you can't eat, but those days are going to pass and you'll get through it and you're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then also the same thing for teens, even people my age too. I'm 26. I never thought that I would honestly be here still at 26 years old, but even in teens too, there's always you have to find that will and that power and that sort of something, whether it's God that you believe in or whether it's a higher power or something. You have to believe in something in order to keep going. So whatever that thing is that's going to keep you going, whether it's your mom or your dad or God or that higher power, keep believing in that so that you're able to keep going, because at the end of the day we're all human. At the end of the day we all cry the same. We're all angry the same way. We all worry. We all feel frustrated, and that's okay because we're human. Those are just human feelings. But I feel like also we can all be happy too, and give yourself grace too. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to worry, and it's okay if you're crying about a boy. It is okay. I've been through that. We've all been through that, and so just know that it's going to get better, and that you will push through it, through whatever it is situation that you're in. You will push through it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering all these questions. I want to say something. Sometimes advice doesn't need to fix anything. Sometimes it just needs to be reminding someone that they're not broken. Now, talking about this made me realize something. A lot of us are carrying things we picked up when we were younger, unspoken feelings, unmet needs, and emotions we were never taught how to process. And that doesn't mean we're weak. It just means we're human. And if you're a teen listening to this, your feelings matter now, not later. And if you're an adult listening, the way we respond to teens' emotions can stick with them longer than you think. Just a thought. Healing doesn't always mean letting go of the past. Sometimes it just means understanding it. Thank you for listening. Be gentle to yourself today, and remember, you're not alone in what you're feeling. I'm really glad you're here, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.